we're going to share a little bit about the history of romance books. We're going to get your participation a little bit as we talk about the tropes of romance books. I have a small little audience. Most people think the show is over. So feel free to scoot forward if you want, or stay where you are if you're comfortable. We're going to get started. Sound good?
Yeah.
So, welcome to The Panalists, a bookish deep dive podcast where we take bookish genres and tropes and overanalyze them to the point that people think we hate reading. But at least we have fun doing it. My name is Jaysen.
And my name is Niah.
My name is Niah.
And my name is Lizzy.
First, I want to tell you a little bit about how we kind of came to do this podcast. So we were all in an Uber together in California, going to an indie bookstore, and I don't remember who said it. It might have been me, but one of us turned to the other and said, I think it was me, because I think I was like really digging into my white man roots when I said, we should start a podcast. And I think it was Niah and I at first. We were like, we should do a podcast. And these two were in the car, and they were like, we will do that too.
We were like, they were talking about the first book that they were going to read on this podcast, and I was like next to them, like ordering on Amazon. Like, I don't do.
I can't wait for you to read that with me.
I think you just told Lizzy. We're doing a podcast.
Yeah, I just showed up and I thought you were just pitching the idea for support. And then when you're like, no, we want you in it, I was like, oh, okay.
So kind of the idea that this stemmed from is I love my social media. I love doing projects where I look at the history of different genres and things like that. And romance is a genre I don't know very much about. And it is also a genre, we're going to talk about this a little bit too, that often is not looked at with like the same critical eye, because people are like, oh, this is the silly genre for girls, right? And I really wanted to look at the history of the romance genre. I wanted to learn more about romance books, and I wanted to also treat them with the respect that they deserve for being this really powerful thing in the history of literature and of just the world. And one Uber car ride later, we had decided that we were going to do a podcast.
A very long car ride.
It was LA, we were stuck in traffic.
It was a long car ride, but by the time we got out of the car, we knew that we were doing a podcast. So the first question I want to ask you guys is, what got you, the three of you, into romance books?
I don't remember like way back, or like, I can't pinpoint the first one, but I'm going to date myself here a little bit. I'm an elder millennial, and we had this program in high school called Accelerated Reader. You had to read books 4 points. And my whole thing was that I would read the biggest, like the classics, got me the most points. So that was like my thing, is I would always go and read the classics. So I read Pride and Prejudice at 15. I read Jane Eyre at 15 outside of curriculum just for funsies. So that was like my first real introduction to romance and really falling in love with romance, because those are still two of my favorite books of all time. Then I took a little break from reading and from reading romance. And then around college, when I started to like fit in reading for fun again, I was reading like Nora Roberts and Sandra Brown, just kind of came to them. I don't even know how, and was like reading those pretty voraciously. Took another break from reading romance, was still kind of reading other things, and then kind of halfway through my content creation career, I was like, what I want to do is like kind of rediscover romance and put myself, like try very hard to like go back in there, and then I came in the way of like historical romances. So I've like dabbled here and there throughout my reading career, and now we're doing this podcast, which has been an education.
That's one way to put it. I grew up in a Jane Austen household. So every time I came home from school, Pride and Prejudice was on the TV. And I was like, okay, maybe I should actually read it. But then that paired with being a theater kid and loving Phantom of the Opera, and then being told you can have this with a happy ending and like in a more healthy way, I was like, oh, this is fun. Got into fan fiction because of After in one direction, which led me to like paranormal and then the online bookish space and contemporary romance. So it's been
slippery slope.
Very slippery slope.
So I started reading romance when I was like 11 or 12. I was young. Oh, do I need to, you want to hear me? Okay, I started reading romance when I was like way too young, and then I got tired of reading romances because I was tired of them all just featuring people who do not look like me. And then I picked up like my first romance book like a week after I joined like TikTok or something like that, and I realized that there was a whole like different set of like romance books that like including people that look with me. And I was like, oh my gosh, I love this. And I've been reading romance and bullying my friends into starting a romance podcast with me ever since.
And we have read some winners and some losers, for sure, since we started the show. To that end, before we jump into kind of some of the books we've read through history, what to you makes a good romance book?
A good romance book to me is something that makes me feel like the characters are like deeply in love, like they know each other's middle names, even if we don't read that on page where I feel like they are like deeply connected. There is like yearning, yearning actually, where I feel like they know each other's middle names. I know that that's really specific, but like there are some books I read where I'm like, you don't know each other's favorite color, you know their middle name, like at the end of the book, you're never gonna talk to each other again. I like a book that I feel like they know each other, you know?
It's gonna be, again, so it's a small crowd. I
I
say
say
that
everyone.
Yeah, the great thing about there not being a ton of people is we can say whatever we want. We are, however, recording this, so.
75% of the way through fourth wing, and someone turned to somebody else and said, "But like, what's your favorite food?" I was like, "Get the fuck out of here." That was question for page 1. This is like, so yeah,
What's the answer?
chocolate cake or something. If I remember correctly. Yeah.
Where does that look like? Okay, that's not a question, sorry.
For me, I think that like the central question of a good romance book, or the thing that it has in its consciousness, is this like there's this question of why can't these two people be together? And then you convince me of what that actually is. What is keeping them apart? And whether that conflict is internal or external, I love them both. I love internal stakes, I love external stakes, but they have to exist. There has to be a convincing reason these people can't be together. And then you have to show me the journey and convince me at the end that they should be together. And I think that a lot of times when a romance misses for me, it's one of the, or the other is missing. We get to the end and I'm like, actually, that will end in divorce. Or, you know, like, actually, why don't you just use your words and you could be together? Like, those are the things that are often breaking a romance for me.
I like that your answer to what makes a good romance was I can tell you what it's not. It is a mix of those two. I want the against all odds. I want both characters to be very complex and develop, that they go on a journey together and apart a little bit as individuals, so that you have that super satisfying end of they both got in the way internally and externally. That's why Pride and Prejudice is my favorite.
Yeah, romance books have been hard for me because, like, one of the main things of romance books is that they have happy endings. One of my main complaints of every book we've read is like, oh, I just didn't love that it had a happy ending.
I'm arguing about this all the time. I'm like, Jaysen, it's a romance.
Yeah, I want to cry, and when they don't, I'm sad about it.
Some of these books did make me cry.
Yeah, but not for the right reasons. So let's get into history. So we initially started this, and the first thing you do when you say we're going to start a history of romance panel is you look up what is the first romance book in history. And what we found was a book called Pamela or Virtue Rewarded. That's the full title, by Samuel Richardson.
How many people have read Pamela?
You ever read Pamela?
Oh,
and you should know that the first ever romance book written in 1740 by a man. Yeah, and you know what? You should be. So this is considered the first ever romance novel. It is an epistolary novel, and it follows Pamela, a 15-year-old servant girl. Her wealthy employer, Mr. B, attempts to seduce and manipulate her. Pamela resists his advances and carefully documents everything in letters to her parents. Very terrifying letters. Eventually, Mr. B reforms and marries Pamela, elevating her social status. There was also, a fun fact about this is that someone wrote a parody of this in 1741 called Shamala, about how maybe she wasn't so innocent after all.
15 years old.
15 years old, yeah. So my question to you is, this is the book we began our journey with, first ever romance book by a lot of people's belief, and what stuck with you all about this book?
Before we did this, I want to let you know that when we were talking about we knew we were going to read Pamela first, and people, when this was published, it was very divisive about people, whether they thought it was good or bad, so much so that they had like teams, like we would have like Team Jacob, Team Edward kind of thing, and there were the Panalists and the anti-Panalists. So Jaysen was like, we should call our podcast the Panalists. And I said, sir, we don't know what's in that book. We're not going to leave ourselves after a book we haven't read yet. And he was like, how about the Panalists? And I was like, got it.
So that's right. And I want to tell you, after reading Pamela, that was the right call.
I hated it. Like, it was terrible.
Yeah.
I hated Pamela, right? Did we? Yeah, I didn't like it.
I did hate it, but I didn't hate the experience of reading it. Like, my jaw was on the floor so often. I was like, oh, I'm really invested in hopefully this girl's survival. Questionable. But I was really surprised how these tropes have not changed.
Yeah.
Like, that was maybe the original reformed rape, if you could call him reformed. I don't know.
I feel like it was the original dark romance, though.
It was very dark romance.
It came out for like 3 times.
There's a lot of, so to give you some context, if you haven't read the book, there's a ton of kidnapping. Multiple times this girl is kidnapped. There's also, like, we talked about, there's a lot of manipulation. There are, like, things where he dresses up. This is the book where he dresses up as a woman to, like, pretend that he's her maid. And he's like, hello, Pamela. To, like, find out. And then I'm going to sleep in your bed tonight. Yeah. Let me keep you company. Yeah, it is wild. And so reading it was definitely like an experience for sure.
The thing that stuck out to me is that, like, right, this is like billed as probably not the first romance, right? There's a lot of like tradition outside of like, you know, Western romance that probably has what is truly first, you know, the first vestiges of romance. But this is considered like the first romance book. And it's so interesting to me because I was reading it. If you go into it like you're going to read a horror, it's like that is a better. And you're like, yeah, this is actually horrifying. It's like horrific because it is epistolary, and so you're reading her letters, and she's like writing to her parents, like, please save me, someone. All I have left is my virtue, and this man is trying to. And so it's like genuinely horrifying to me to like be in her head, and it's really interesting because it is a morality tale. Like the author wrote it to be like this, like tale, like to other young women, to tell them and show them that all they do have is their virtue. And if you hold on really tight to your virtue, maybe a rich man will come and marry you. The end. So we were all reading it like, you know, in our modern context, it was truly, truly horrifying.
Absolutely. I mean, it was, the whole thing was like, you can change that by just suffering.
Yeah, and the interesting thing about this book too is that at the end, you know, the books have epilogues. The epilogue of this book is all the things you should have learned from it. And it really is like, if the man is having a hard time kidnapping you, you should, you know, make yourself less kidnapping. Like that is kind of the lessons to be learned from this book, which was also just a wild experience as well. So from there, we jumped into a much better book, which was Pride and Prejudice, which how many people have read Pride and Prejudice? There we go. Published in 1813 by Jane Austen, this follows Elizabeth Bennet, a witty and young woman. She meets the wealthy and reserved, we believe with all our hearts, autistic, Mr. Darcy, and they initially dislike each other. Misunderstanding, social pressure, personal flaws create tension. Both characters grow and overcome their pride and prejudice, obviously, eventually falling in love. One of those famous and beloved novels in all of literature and the romance genre. Why do you guys think, after we read this, especially because we went from Pamela to this, why do you think this is considered to be so important to the romance canon?
I think one of the things that stood out to me on my approximately 217th reading of this novel, because this one is not new to me, I read it. I was reading it at least once a year until COVID hit, and I think of the year of 2020, I must have read this book like 300 times. Like I was reading it constantly. So I read this book a lot, but it's really funny on this reread, what stuck out to me was kind of the pacing. On another panel that I was in, we were talking about the third act breakup and like how readers, modern readers, have such a like love-hate relationship to the third act breakup, and it reminded me of Pride and Prejudice because at that point, that tension comes like halfway through the book, the first proposal, where Elizabeth is like, no, you're the last man on this earth that I would marry. That comes halfway through the book. And so then you get time for Darcy to change. And the problem with like modern third act breakups is you get that in like the chapter before the last, the guy does the most horrific thing you've ever read, and then like a chapter later, she's like, I forgive you, and then you get an epilogue at the end. And there's no space for like change and like, you know, for both characters, because Lizzy goes on her own journey as well. So I think the reason that it's so enduring is that these characters are very three-dimensional. They have things outside of themselves and like marriage that they're dealing with, even though marriage is like a big thing. And they go on their separate and together journeys, and the characters suffer change. So that when you get the answer of like, should these people be together, you're like, yes, forever.
It's just such a blueprint, but also the writing style, and I think doing the timeline specifically, because isn't it similar to the Bronte sisters, that they get to review it, but Jane Austen came out with no like male pen name. And it was actually just like a female perspective centered, female joy at the end, everything coming together. But my favorite thing about it, which might not answer it, is just that Jane covers so many different kinds of relationships. Like Charlotte Lucas stuck with me the most out of that whole book. And seeing like Jane fall in love with Bingley, I don't know, the way she went into all of the other characters and different kinds of love is what stuck with me the most.
Well, I think, like Mario said, I like the way that they grow together. I like the way that they like have their, not even the third act, if they like break up and have their whole like falling out like in the middle of the book, and then they change and grow together. Like they both have to change, not just like the man groveling, but like they both change and grow, and they're better for it by the end.
Yeah, I think I'm surprised that you mentioned this, but I think also the book is very funny. Like it is delightfully funny, and I think that also like really helps it to feel very mainstream. Like it is such a charming, lovely, funny book, you know, and I think that helps a lot too.
I remember reading it because I DNF'd it the first time I read it, and I was like, I'm not gonna like this, and I thought that we were gonna have a falling out, and I was very distressed.
I was very
distressed. Yeah, and I was like, oh my gosh, I don't think I'm gonna like this. And then I was like 2 chapters in, and I was like, maybe I think it's funny. And it's funny. And
You're right.
Yeah, it was right. And I was like, I didn't read this book the right way the first time that I read it, which I was like very surprised to admit that I had done anything wrong, because it was like a first time for me, right? But like realizing that, like coming from the book, like reading the book, like having Mario in my ear being like, no, this is like funny, and recognizing that it was like funny and like slowing down and like really savoring it actually made me enjoy the book a lot more than I did the first time that I read it, truly.
I'm going to go over the next 2 books we read kind of together. So I'm going to focus the question sort of on one of them. But next up we read Jane Eyre by Charlotte Bronte, who has read Jane Eyre, so some people. This was published in 1847, follows Jane Eyre, who is an orphan who grows up facing hardship and neglect. She becomes a governess at Thornfield Hall, where she meets her employer, Mr. Rochester. They fall in love, but Jane discovers Rochester is hiding a dark secret.
It's so dark.
Let me tell you, this book came out in 1847. When the secret was revealed, I gasped out loud because I was so shocked. I was texting them like maniacally. Is this happening? Like, it's wild.
When I found out that he was unspoiled for Jane Eyre, I was like skipping around. I was like, I can't wait for you to read it.
I also got into a fight on Threads with someone because I said something about Pride and Prejudice early in that book, and someone spoiled something for me, and I was like, wow, spoilers. And they were like, that book is from the 1800s.
They may have been right.
And I was like, oh, well, I blocked them, so we'll never know. But Jane leaves to preserve her moral integrity, and later returns after they have both changed, blends romance, realism, and Gothic suspense. Now, her sister also released a little book that is getting a film adaptation this weekend called Wuthering Heights by Emily Bronte. This also came out in 1847, and all 3 sisters were publishing under the same male pen name, which is really interesting. This centers on an intense relationship between Catherine Earnshaw and Heathcliff, an orphan adopted by her family. Catherine chooses to marry a wealthy Edgar Linton for social advancement, not Heathcliff, and Heathcliff returns later, wealthy and bitter, seeking revenge on everyone and everything. Don't worry, I don't think I'm spoiling the movie because I don't think it follows the book. The novel spans 2 generations, showing the lasting consequences of obsession and cruelty. This is from the Romance period, but very specifically, we read this book for a very specific reason, which is that it is often lumped in with romance genre because it is from the Romance period, but it is very specifically not
And
a
in
romance
no way
book.
whatsoever. No.
So my question after all of that is, why do you think, these 2 books do share some qualities, right? They both have kind of these dark Gothic atmospheres. Why do you think that Wuthering Heights so often gets portrayed as a romance?
Jaysen, I think I'll take that question. Has anybody here read Wuthering Heights? Okay. Has anyone seen the movie yet?
Not this one.
Not the new one. Yeah. You have. Yeah.
So I never read the book.
Okay.
So I went into it like totally blind. And I also for some reason thought I had read it because I think I read parts of it.
Yeah.
And so I was like, oh, this is what's gonna happen in the movie, but it was like obviously.
You leaned to the next person next to you, and you're like, this is not what was going to happen.
They're like supposed to be someone in like a so I viewed it as like a totally separate, like
Sure.
went into it totally blind.
Yeah, fair enough. I
Diplomatic answer.
Yeah. I love Jane Eyre. Jane Eyre is one of my favorite books of all time. I hate Wuthering Heights. I'm sorry. I'm one of these people that
Are you sorry?
No, I'm not sorry at all. I truly do not like or enjoy. I did not enjoy the experience. I tried it when I was 15, when I was going through my classics, and I DNF'd it. And so I came back to it now for this project, and I was like, with my adult eyes, I will appreciate the context. And I was like, 50-year-old me was right. I did not enjoy the experience of reading that, and it was very interesting to me because I've seen Wuthering Heights like a big pop culture touch point in a lot of like Twilight, Bella's favorite book, and like after that girl's favorite book is Wuthering Heights, right? It's like this thing where it's like become this romance staple. So reading it, trying to figure out why the hell anybody sees this as a romance was genuinely confounding. They were giving. And especially because it's not even like the revenge or the darkness of it, it's because those two people do not even fall in love on the page. This is a book that is told like third or fourth hand. It's somebody telling a story to somebody who's writing it. And everybody who is telling us a story, the things didn't even happen to them. It's like that kind of level of remove. So we don't even know why these two people fall in love with each other. We just told that whatever souls are made of, theirs are the same. Which that line comes in a teenage girl's tirade to her mate. It's not even in like a romantic context. So there were so many things that I'm like, why do people see this as romantic? I genuinely do not have an answer for you on that one. No idea.
I could say this is the perfect example of why you should never lie about the books you've read, because growing up, I do think a lot of almost branding around the book when you just see the quotes paired with other romance books, that if you were just looking at it, I did assume it was a romance book and left horrified. I'm thinking maybe a lot of it just has to do with over time people mistaking it for romance, but after reading it, I'm not sure. Maybe the obsession element has an appeal.
That's what I was gonna say. I think it's probably the way that he's like obsessed with her and how that appeals to people being like, oh my gosh, like you're so down bad for this person that you would do anything. But sometimes maybe you shouldn't do anything. Maybe you should take a peek, and think about it before you like dig up her grave. I don't know.
Yeah, I think we had such an interesting experience reading this book because we had just come off of Jane Eyre and we all collectively loved Jane Eyre a lot. And I think the other thing that was interesting about this book too, like for me, when I first started reading it, I had a really hard time getting into it. I had to restart it, I think 2 or 3 times. And the third time, I was, at the time, because I've also been doing like a history of dark fantasy series, and I was looking for books that were like about like settings that were like dark, decaying, Gothic, castle type things. And when I was looking for this type of book, Wuthering Heights came up. And when I read it in that like mindset, like, oh, this is a dark, Gothic, decaying story of like, I think the word became way from even in the podcast episode where we talked about it was decay. I enjoyed the experience of reading it through that lens a lot more than, when are they going to fall in love? Oh, never. Okay. Right. But yeah, so it's really, we're actually going to see the film tonight, and then we're going to be doing an episode about the movie next week, and we're very excited. We're excited and terrified to watch it in the best way.
I'm excited to hang out with my friends.
The supporting female actresses are the best. That's what I'll say. Isabel's character, like the actresses, that's what we would like the best part.
Oh, that's great.
It's really funny because in all of the reviews that I've been reading, you can tell when it's like a very either like divisive or bad movie because of it is like, wow, those costumes. Amazing. The lighting. Wow. Visually stunning. And you're like, was there anything else to this movie? Or
that one scene with those pretty curtains.
yeah,
those ones in my house. So now I have another kind of broader question for you, and then from there, I'm sorry, I'm skipping ahead a little bit. What has been the most surprising thing to you about historical romance, or about the romance books from history that we've read so far? Is there anything that like really stood out to you?
All of the kidnapping. There is so
exactly
much
kidnapping.
kidnapping. Everyone's getting kidnapped all the time.
all the time. There is a lot.
It's like every time someone steps outside, oh, you're kidnapped. No one does anything. They'll go, oh, well, too bad. We can't punish this person for kidnapping this young woman. You can't. There are crimes. Like, there are laws.
Kidnapping is so normalized in a lot of these books, though, that it's just like, where's Becky? Oh, she's kidnapped.
I did find that very frustrating. I was like, what's happening?
I think for me, like the most surprising thing is how much of like the tropes still echo in modern romance. Like as we're reading, right, we're looking at like the ways that the female protagonist is changing across time, and there's a lot that like informs that, right? Like Station, Pamela was a young poor girl; she's a servant, so that's very different than Elizabeth Bennet, who's like from middle classish kind of family. Her circumstances are a little bit different. So we're watching, and then we're back to Jane Eyre, who's again poor and a governess, and so that informs. But also, we're seeing the change of time and how much personal agency changes for these women and how that affects the story. And then for the men, we're seeing we're tracking like a lot of archetypes. So we see like the Darcy character is very different than like a Rochester, who is a more brooding, darker kind of character. Darcy broods in a certain way, but not like Rochester. I mean, that man has issues going on.
Yeah, and there's nothing and no one in Darcy's attic. Clean place.
It's very cool. It's a little drafty, but otherwise. So we're watching that archetype also kind of change and develop for the men, and these are archetypes that you can still find in like modern. And how many times that we're talking about about historical romances still echoes in modern romance, that our answer is dark romance.
Yeah.
Like how much they share DNA, I think has been really interesting.
That was exactly what I was going to say, that a lot of these would be categorized as dark romance now, I think. But also with Pamela and Shamala, that we all still have that reaction sometimes with a really divisive book of like, but what if I wrote it different? What if I made the 15-year-old girl the villain?
Which is not the right answer.
Which I tried to do, and you guys wouldn't let me.
No! Okay, the thing about Pamela is that she's writing these letters where she's like, I was the prettiest girl at the party.
That she quotes other people.
She's like, yeah. Other people said I was the prettiest girl at the party. And then Jaysen was like, what if she wasn't? And I was like, excuse you, sir.
Pamela did nothing wrong.
She very much writes like a 15-year-old girl, where she's like, and I went to the party and I had dinner, and everyone said that my dress was the prettiest. Everyone said so. And maybe it was, but what if it wasn't? Anyway,
I don't want to hear it.
I'm gonna read this question so that I get the numbers right. So romance is consistently the highest grossing and best-selling fiction genre in the world, generating over $1.44 billion in revenue annually, with a 52% growth in sales from 2022 to 2023, and that is even more now than it was back then. The genre dominates the market in both print and digital formats, often doubling the sales of other popular genres, yet still is highly looked down upon in the literary world. Why do you think that is?
We all know that answer.
Everybody
So, do you think it's getting better?
No. I think
Is the patriarchy getting
in some ways I feel like there are like different ways that romance is being acknowledged, but I think that a lot of times that is coming from more of a capitalistic bent, oh, heated rivalries are great, like it makes so much money, which is different than like actually appreciating a work for its own merits or whatnot. And I think misogyny, and I'm sure somebody else can touch on like how deeply that's rooted in like the way that things that are primarily enjoyed for women are perceived. But I also think, to be a little bit spicy with this take, the opposite end of this is sometimes that romance readers are our own worst enemies with the way that we talk about romance. There's so many times that like romance is like being talked about in negative light, that romance readers will come forward to defend the genre, and it's like, well, it's just for fun, well, it's just my escape. And it's like, you're doing the work of people who are putting down romance for them. Romance is a genre with its own rich history, and yes, you can have fun with it, and yes, a lot of it is escapist, but that doesn't mean that it is not difficult to write. It's really difficult to write a good escapist romance. It requires its own skill, which you can tell, like when people attempt it and you're like, you did that wrong. There's so much that goes into romance that I think sometimes us as fans or readers, when we talk about it, we can almost do a disservice up to it, and especially in the way that we consider it and present it, and all of that. So that's my spicy take. I think we also have some responsibility in that as well.
Yeah, it just deserves to be taken seriously. Yeah, as seriously as other genres.
I do think the main thing is like the gender bias. I was thinking that the criticism of romance is usually very formulaic or surface level, or it's sexual or something, which can be found across every genre. And so when I was talking to my mom about this earlier, she's like, "But romance is like a beach read." And I was like, "Well, why is it a beach read when it's in a woman's hand?" Like it's not really used when men are reading a lot of the time. But I also think that sometimes joy isn't interesting from an academic level. That when people look at romance, because it is the happy ending, even though we all want the human connection and joy, it's not as like interesting.
That's a great answer. Maybe, yeah, because and I think about that too. I don't think lesser of books that have happy endings, but in my head, sometimes a bittersweet or sad ending takes more work, which is not true. Or like takes it makes it more, I don't know, makes it more so literature or something, but of course that's not true. It's just something we've kind of been ingrained with to think, right?
I think it's it's interesting because this is similar for why people say that they love enemies to lovers, and it's because it starts from a place where it makes it a more pronounced arc. Like you're going for so far, and so there's something about like feeling that difference that I think people really enjoy, which is the same for like a bittersweet ending. Yeah. It's like you're kind of doing something that that gives you like a shortcut to emotions. Where I think it's actually more challenging to start from not from friends to lovers. It's more challenging because you have to create the arc and not from the starting point. And I think it is also more challenging to give us a happy ending that still feels satisfying.
Yeah, totally agree. So now we're going to do something a little fun. We are going to do a smash or pass for romance tropes. We are going to be answering, but we're also going to just kind of shout out and let you guys shout out your answers as well. And I think we're like doing pretty good on time. So if we have thoughts on any of these, we can feel free to share them.
Oh,
so,
I will.
Yeah. Don't have to ask me twice. So first one, it's easy one. Enemies to lovers, smash or pass?
Smash. Pass.
For in all cases.
In 99% of the cases.
What's the 1% where you don't?
Like rivals to lovers, more things along more in that line. But first of all, a contemporary enemies to lovers, get the fuck out of here. Why are you calling that man your enemy? You're at work, Susan. Horrifying. Oh, he's my enemy because when we were in college, she called me ugly. Grow up. Grow up. I don't know what should happen next. No. You grow out of spite somehow. No. In a fantasy setting, I'll allow a little bit more, but I find that modern enemies to lovers is just a hall pass for a man to abuse a woman and for us to wrap it up and romanticize it and call it romance. So
yeah, that's why I often am a little bit hesitant on enemies to lovers too. I think in theory I love it, but I have read so many books where you're like, oh, I have such a good enemies to lovers arc. And really it's a bully to lovers arc.
Or it's like, he committed genocide against your people.
Whoa. Accidentally.
Pass.
All right, on to the next. Well, this one we already kind of just talked about. Friends to lovers.
Pass.
Oh. Pass. Smash.
Are you changing your answer?
I'm like, smash.
Oh, smash.
The thing about it is like, I hate it. I like friends to lovers, but not when it's like, I was her friend because like she would never be with me, and it's like he was just waiting in the wings to be able to like swoop in, and I'm like, you're a creep. Actually, you were never a friend, and so like I feel like a lot of like friends to lovers are not actually like friends to lovers.
It has to be that both of them are friends and then convert to lovers, and not like one person had feelings and then convert to lovers. That's creepy. Yeah. And I think that's like friendship under like false pretenses, like and that
interesting.
Yeah, I kind of find friends to lovers boring.
Boring.
I know. I'm sorry. And also, friends are for making out with, not being in love with. That's my thing. Okay, next one is fake dating.
Smash.
I did hear some smashes. I heard some passes.
Pass.
I thought it was. You guys all say smash?
Smash.
Smash. Yeah. I love a little lie, you know? It's just, I think it's fun. I think it's like ridiculous. Like it's always a little bit silly. Like you can do anything else other than fake date. And like, I like that, you know?
We love a little lie. I think it's a smash for me, but I don't think I've ever read one that I would point to as being like, oh, I love that book and it was 50. I haven't found the one that like made me love the trivia.
Well, I've just forgotten everything I've ever read, so I can't recommend you one, but Wuthering Heights.
It's really more of a friend's club. The next one, I feel like this is probably going to be unanimous, but I could be wrong. Slow burn.
Oh,
Smash.
I just like them to bang on page 2 and then spend the rest of the time figuring it out. But I also love a surprise baby, so I'm
I don't know you, but I love you. Amazing.
That is so good.
I did a quote. I just want them to smash on page 2 and then figure it out. I love that. We're going to change our name of the podcast to that. That's at least a new
Hi, welcome to Smash on page 2.
But you were hesitant, was it? You're going to pass on slow
No,
burn?
it's just sometimes the slow burn is like too slow.
Yeah.
If they're like, it's a true slow burn, like catch me in 3 books. I will not catch you in 3 books. Actually, I don't want you doing that. Like so.
I feel like there's like with all of these tropes, I'm like a very anti kind of trope person in terms of like how we talk about tropes today and how very formulaic it is. But it can be done well, it can be done poorly.
Yeah.
And I think the big pitfall to slow burn is just like putting so many barriers that don't make sense, and also miscommunication is a big barrier in slow burn. Where if you're like, if you just talk to each other, oh, he can possibly like me, and I'm just like, you're an idiot. So like there's a lot of pitfalls, but like if it's done well, a true like slow building to the relationship, delicious.
Also, Niah, you're a liar because we were just talking about the David Blah trilogy.
That's different.
She loves to lie. She loves to lie.
Not every book I've ever read. I'm sorry.
All right, next one.
That's a fantasy.
It's still
There's
a
some-
It still has a slow burn romance.
I'll allow it.
Okay. Is that different than fantasy though?
Yeah.
No.
It's
Romance
still
to
So it's a trope. We're not talking about genres. We're just talking
Yeah,
about
we're talking about tropes in their most basic.
Smash on the weekend.
Yeah. Oh, especially. All right, next one.
partial custody.
Second chance romance.
Yeah.
But
Smash.
then you go to therapy.
Yes.
You do not have to tell me twice that you don't want me.
Yeah, if you didn't want it the first time.
Okay. This is one of those ones in real life, pass.
Yeah, right.
In a book, smash.
Yeah.
I think pass forever, other than before I let go.
That's exactly
That is the only one I know that. Yes. But that's I'm also like a very controversial Happy Place Defender by Emily Henry.
Yes.
I know people don't like that book. I loved it. I thought it was so good, like as a second chance romance.
Did you just smash with us?
Did I just smash it?
Yeah, you.
Oh, I said pass. For sure.
Yeah.
They don't get a second chance, they're blocked. How are they even getting hold of me?
You're blocked and I reported you.
Yeah, exactly. Next one. This is a spicy one. Miscommunication.
Pass.
I can't join you there.
We've been in lockstep, but
This is my least favorite trope in the English language. I hate it so much. It makes me wildly rageful whenever I read it.
and I hear the defense of it where people are like, well, humans are bad at communication. That is true. That is like a part of the human experience is that like we don't always communicate well with each other. But specifically when I'm talking about miscommunication, it is like the thing that like a plot hinge. If your plot can be resolved by one conversation, pass. And that's too much of what miscommunication
And a lot of
is.
books
Yes.
Next one. Insta-love.
If it's like fantasy, paranormal, there's something else going on. If it's contemporary, get out of my face. No.
My favorite romance book is Insta-Love. I love Insta-Love. I love when they see each other across the room and it's just...
You know why? It's because I can fall in love with anyone instantly. This is like true life. I'm the person at the airport that is like, is that man in love with me? And the answer is yes. And so, I like a little Insta-Love.
This one was the last minute addition to this list. Reformed rape.
If he's actually reformed, smash.
We need to see his paperwork. we need a, what is it called when you're trying to get a job and you references? We need references.
Can we send him to therapy like the other one?
They all have, all.
We're at a dragon college, there's not therapy.
But there is chocolate cake and elliptical.
Alright, the next one is spicy. It's a spicy one. Pregnancy trope.
But my friends always say it's because I'm a lesbian, so a surprise baby is like not my reality. My fear in my life.
So it's a fantasy book for you.
A lot of money for my son, and so, you know, it's not a reality.
We have a book that the next book that we're going to be doing an episode about, spoiler for you guys, sorry, has a pregnancy trope. And it was, I think, might be the first time I've ever read the pregnancy trope, and I was like, I think maybe this is fun. Lizzy doesn't agree.
There's nothing about that book that's fun.
What is it though?
It's called The Flame and the Flower by Kathleen E. Woodwis. It's an older book, but it is, if you ever wanted to read a romance book that has every trope you've ever imagined, it has every single thing on this list. That book has it. Yeah, and it's also, check your trigger warnings, it's a lot.
I'm a controversial smash to pregnancy tropes.
Oh.
I don't mind it. I just feel like it's part of the human experience. I think like pregnancy weirdly gets a lot of like weird feelings about it in fiction. Like again, not wanting to read it, but sometimes other people talk about it. I'm like, do you hate women? Like or like people who have babies. Like I don't know, it's some weird feelings.
Yeah.
I don't want to read it always, but if it shows up, I'm like, okay.
I think Pass, but Out on a Limb is someone said that book is so good.
If it's done right.
If it's done right.
That's true for so many tropes, though.
Yeah.
It's like past, but if it's done right, you know.
I'll give it a little
Alright, we've got just a couple left. Grumpy Sunshine.
Smash.
Yeah, smash. I am in one of those relationships, so I better say smash
With
or
who? Me?
You're the sunshine girl.
yeah, you're definitely the sunshine.
I didn't understand what that was.
That's why you're the
Exactly. Alright, next one. This is a controversial one. I feel like we're gonna get a mixed room. Love triangle.
Supernatural trial.
It never is.
Oh, I'm so smashed for this. I love triangle.
Messy.
Oh, the messier the better. When I said earlier my favorite platform was Threads, I meant it. Give me the mess.
Is you made a fool of death with your beauty? Is that considered a love triangle?
I didn't read it.
Oh.
That's just a force.
That's boyfriend's dad.
Oh, my favorite trope. Boyfriend's dad.
Consider a love triangle.
Yeah.
Alright.
Yeah.
Next one. We're gonna go rapid fire through these last couple because we are almost out of time. So one bed.
Smash.
Yeah, I figured.
I feel like it's smashed, but it's so overdone now that it's almost like you're making me not want to like this anymore.
Actually, it has to be a king size bed.
Yeah.
Don't no
Give me a
questions.
twin.
I'm not taking questions at this time.
Who did this to you?
It's so corny.
Also, it gets real
Like, what are you doing? Who did this to you? Get off my no.
I mean, who did this to you and aren't they hot? Because then you get a love triangle. See? Touch her and die.
Smash.
Only in contemporary, because it's hilarious. It's hilarious for them to be like, oh, this person ignored your email. Oh, wait, I'm gonna kill them.
Who did this to you? Larry from the county?
Alright, I've got one more question for you ladies, and then we'll do our quick how they can find us on the internet. My question to you is, do you have any thoughts about, or what do you think is the future of the romance genre? Or what do you think is coming up?
In a positive or negative way?
Either.
I think we're gonna see like a lot of dystopian romance, and a lot more dystopian like romance. And I think that's gonna be wonderful.
I think we're reaching kind of the nexus point here. It's going to be really interesting. The thing I'm keeping my eye on is the AI of it all.
Yeah.
Because I feel like that article just came out about that author who was like churning out 200 books using AI.
Like a
And like the way that is flooding KU, it's going to reach a breaking point. point, right?
Yeah.
Because especially the way KU is set up, where it's like one pot, and the more stuff that is put in that pot, the worse it is for all other authors. So I don't know. We're gonna reach a point where something's got to give, and I don't know how that's gonna tip. Whether like negative in terms of like more AI, or positive where like people start catching up to this being a bad thing for authors and platforms, but it's not going away. And I think we're just going to continue to be inundated with AI and AI witch hunts, and you used an M-dash, you wrote it, you used AI, like all of that stuff. So
I can tell you what I want to see,
Yeah, what's
which
your-
isn't a lot of books, but I just love romance books that also have a really good support system. So it's not just these two people existing in their bubble forever. Like, there are friends involved. There's like platonic relationships in the background that are very strong.
Most people have, I mean, like, I think that always makes like a romance book like so much better when they have like friends in it, like they have a fully like fleshed out like world, you know?
I want more monster romances, and I want them to come out of the shadows and stop hiding.
I got great news.
I want them on the front table,
Oh, well.
and once that's done, once we've gotten there, sentient romance next.
you know,
I want Cliffy on page 1.
you know, you have an imprint, and you can publish these books.
Oh, but if you've got one that's found family, I'm open to it. Any questions from you guys before we wrap up today?
If you guys can recommend one book of a modern classic of romance, and when I say modern, I mean last 5 years.
Ooh.
Oh, 7 Days in June? No, it might be older than that.
I'll take that.
How to
Yeah.
10 years?
how to end a love story.
Yes.
It is so good. Yeah.
A recent one I read was The Everlasting by Lizzy.
Ooh, yes.
Fantastic, and I think it's going to age beautifully and just continue to be like a staple of like the romantic fantasy genre.
One of my very favorite books of all time, and one of my favorite romance books, it is my favorite romance books, is Andre and Santi Were Here by Johnny Garzabia. It is young adult, it is queer, it is beautiful, and it also has a lot to say, even though it was written several years ago, not more than 5, but a few years ago, it still has so much to say about the current state of the world, especially considering ICE and immigration and what that does to families and people. And it is a book I love, and it is a book that has both a bittersweet but also a happy ending. So it manages to do both of those things beautifully.
And they're here this weekend.
Yeah, and they're here, so you can pick it up and get it signed.
Did you say something? I don't know, but I did have a question really quick. If we're going to read the book that was mentioned earlier, the Sentient Couch French
Oh, yeah.
Oh, the sofa, yes. Any other questions?
My question is not so much romance related, but podcast related.
Yeah.
Me and my friends started a podcast, and I just want to know if you guys had any advice for like newer podcasts on how to get, I guess, the ball rolling in terms of.
I don't know if our ball is rolling.
Pure audacity.
What I will say is, like, I think what keeps us going is that our goal right from the start was like, we are doing this for fun. We're doing this so we have an excuse to chat with each other about books and talk about them, and then we just happen to release it so that other people can watch it on the internet and do it on YouTube and all of that, and Apple and Spotify. And I think that is the thing that just keeps us going, is because this was never us. You know, we are all individually content creators on the internet, and when we decided to do this, it was purely for the joy and fun of it all, and that is the reason we do it. I don't think nothing about us doing this podcast has ever been about like, we're going to start a podcast, we're going to grow a following, and we're going to be like a podcast that a lot of people listen to. It was always just like, this is an excuse for us to have fun together, and I think that is what has made it such a joy to do.
I think the most basic I think the most basic piece of advice for content creation that you hear, but is like certainly very true, I think, is just to get started. Sometimes you can get bogged down in the details of buying equipment and where do I post it and how do I, but the thing is that you won't have anything to promote, or you won't have a ball to get rolling unless you get started. And really, it's almost like you should look back at, after you're at episode 10 to episode 1 and be like, whoa, that was horrible. And we've learned so much. But that's like the process that you have to go on. So don't overthink in terms of like, where do we start? What do we need? Just start. And that's how you actually build a podcast or a channel or whatever it is you actually have to do to get it going. So, just set realistic goals, be really just let's get going and see where it goes from there.
We have one more question.
They're saying we're out of time.
Oh, one more question.
What Niah said, she's deaf. I know.
I was just wondering, since you're such a big fan of Pride and Prejudice, have you read North and South? Because
Yeah.
And what are your thoughts on the comparisons between the two?
It's been a long time since I read North and South, so I actually don't have like fully formed thoughts on this. I will say, like, as a related thing, I think because I like love Pride and Prejudice and Jane Eyre, people often ask me about other sort of like historical romances or spin-offs or like, you know, retellings or reimaginings, and I'm like, it's not Jane Austen. Like, I'm actually not interested at all. So it's like very Boss Baby's old, I've only watched one movie, and it's Pride and Prejudice. But I do remember enjoying it, and I think we will probably cover it on the podcast. I think we should,
I think it's one.
stay tuned for more thoughts.
Okay, so we're going to wrap up. So obviously, where can we find the podcast? We are the Panalists podcast. We are on YouTube if you prefer to watch us talk about the things that we talk about, or we are also on Apple Podcasts and Spotify. Niah, where can they find you?
I'm Novel Niah on Instagram, YouTube, TikTok, and everywhere else on the internet.
Mari?
I'm at My Name is Martinez on all of my social media platforms, and then I have a homepage, which is also the home for my publishing imprint. I publish genre-blended stories that are thematically rich, and that is marias.binarybooks.com.
You can find me at Bumblebees on TikTok and YouTube, and Bees' Books on Instagram.
And I am at EasyCat everywhere. I also have a binary page, which is easycat.binaryBooks.com, where I publish books. We publish Monsters and Mainframes, as well as House of Frank, and we have a new book coming out on March 3rd, which is in 2 weeks, I've been informed, called Black as Diamond. All of my books are very queer, very diverse, and full of found families. So if that is your vibe, that's what we do. Guys, thank you so much for coming and hanging out with us right now.